Now, while the Joker might be considered to be Batman's arch-enemy, another strong contender for that title is the one and only Ra's al Ghul. While he may stick to his code of nobility and is even the grandfather to the current Robin, Ra's is also the head of the League of Assassins and has proven himself to be a deadly opponent in his attempts to wipe out humanity for what he sees as the greater good. Of course, with the downside of being nearly immortal is that Ra's has had plenty of opportunities for embarrassment over his rather long lifespan, and that's what we're here to pick up today. As I'm Jules, this is WhatCulture.com, and these are 10 things that DC Comics wants you to forget about Ra's al Ghul. Number 10. He met Talia's mother at Woodstock. Ra's second in command is his daughter Talia. She's an important part of any story involving Ra's and is also a love interest for Batman and the mother of his son Damian. Now, not much is known about Talia's origins except that her mother was a woman called Melisande. Oh, and that also Ra's met her while at Woodstock. That's right, the megalomaniac leader of an international organization of assassins was a peace-loving hippie way back in the 1960s. It makes him a lot harder to take seriously as a threat when you can also imagine Ra's strutting around in a paisley shirt and whipping up a batch of his special brownies for everyone else in the camper van. Talia's mother's original cause of death was that she overdosed on drugs, which was later retconned in that she was murdered by one of Ra's enemies, just in case you had any doubts on what they were getting up to at Woodstock. It's pretty ridiculous to think of Ra's as a hippie, but then again it does kind of explain why his outfits always seem to include an unbuttoned shirt and a sash. Number 9. He lost a sword fight to Green Arrow. When Ra's al Ghul was announced to be part of Arrow's third season, a lot of fans were worried about actor Matt Noble's ability to pull off the iconic character. Those fears seemed to be put to rest though in the episode The Climb. Oliver challenges Ra's to a duel to the death only to be destroyed by the master assassin. Despite him being unarmed, Ra's was able to easily disarm Oliver before running him through with his own sword and pushing him off the side of a cliff. It was a genuine shock and a big highlight for what had generally been one of the show's weaker seasons, but it was a shame that when they fought again, it was so underwhelming. Ra's and Oliver fought again in the season finale. However, this time Ra's fell victim to the one weakness of all Arrowverse villains: lazy writing. When it came down to a fight that the show's protagonist needed to win, Ra's conveniently just stopped being a better sword fighter than Oliver and ended up being stabbed to death by an opponent that he could have pretty much beaten in his sleep before. It was an anticlimactic end to a pretty anticlimactic season. Still, at least it was better than season 4. Number 8. He was jealous of Batman for being a better father. A lot of Ra's plans are vast and elaborate schemes built around his goals for the entire world, but some of his plans, though, are just kind of petty. One of Talia al Ghul's main conflicts is how she is torn between her desire to be with Batman and her desire to serve her father. However, in the 2000s, she finally decided that her father would never let her live how she wanted and abandoned him. Like every other bad parent in history, Ra's blamed the collapse of his relationship with his daughter on somebody else and swore revenge on Batman for taking her from him. He decided that he would take a member of Bruce's family from him, and in this case, it was his ward Dick Grayson. Instead of using the usual send ninjas to kill him plan, Ra's decided on the far less impressive plan of trying to drive a wedge between the two by convincing Nightwing that Batman hated him and sabotaging Bruce's attempts at adoption. To add to the patheticness, the plan failed dismally, and Bruce Wayne ended up formally adopting Dick Grayson as his son. The entire plot was fueled by Ra's jealousy that Batman was a better father than he was, and looking on at the next entry that we're about to list, he was definitely right to be jealous, because number 7, he abandoned one of his daughters in a concentration camp. Long before Talia was born, Ra's had a daughter born in 18th century Russia. Nyssa grew up hearing stories of her father, and once she was an adult, she tracked him down in one of his bases in Africa. Impressed by her skills, Ra's made her his second in command, and she accompanied him on his adventures. However, just like Talia eventually would, she became disenchanted with her father's cause and left to start a family. Ra's was disappointed, but accepted his daughter's resignation and even allowed her to keep using the Lazarus Pit to remain immortal. Then, as is so often the case, the Nazis came along and bloody ruined everything. Nyssa and her father were thrown into a concentration camp during World War II. She begged her father for help, but Ra's refused to involve himself in the world's politics, even to save his daughter. Now, most parenting guidebooks would probably list that as a big no-no. By the time that she was released, the rest of her family was dead and she had been rendered infertile by Nazi experiments. Her time in the camp left her pretty rightfully ticked off, and she eventually managed to track down and kill Ra's. Then she and Talia took control of the League of Assassins. But it turns out that this was all part of Ra's plan to have his daughters come around to his way of thinking. Number 6. He poisoned Kingpin's wife. Though they may seem like pretty bitter rivals now, Marvel and DC used to be on pretty amicable enough terms, so much so that their universes would occasionally cross over, and one such crossover was Batman and Spider-Man New Age Dawning. In this storyline, Ra's al Ghul planned to wipe out New York City by sinking it under the ocean. As part of the plan, he gave Kingpin's wife cancer and forced Fist to work for him in exchange for a cure. Kingpin then almost immediately betrayed Ra's because cancer is not a great tool for keeping a workforce motivated. Fisk helped Spider-Man and Batman sneak aboard his plane so that they could stop Ra's plan and save the city. Defeated, Ra's left, but before he went though, he told Fisk that he had lied about ever having a cure for the cancer. It turned out that Ra's was just trying to continue his trend of trying to ruin people's lives for fun, and later Talia handed the actual cure over to the heroes. Sadly, with Marvel and DC now wrapped up in much larger and competitive companies, these kinds of friendly crossovers seem unlikely to happen again, and DC would probably rather you forget they existed. Although, saying that, that's nothing compared to the next entry. As number 5, he was amalgamated. In 1996, Marvel and DC published DC vs. Marvel, a crossover book in which powerful beings from each universe had their respective characters battle to see who was the best, and this concept led to the short-lived Amalgam comic line. Amalgam Comics was pretty much what it said on the tin, a shared brand revolving around a universe filled with merged versions of Marvel and DC characters. One such character was Darkclaw, a combination of the two most brooding vigilantes in comics, Batman and Wolverine, to make an even more brooding vigilante who was now 90% Scowl. Logan Wayne was the son of a pair of wealthy socialites who saw both his parents gunned down by a mugger and then also discovered that he was a mutant and then had adamantium bonded to his skeleton. It wasn't exactly a seamless join thinking about it. Of course, Darkclaw needed enemies. One of the most obvious choices was to combine DC's near-immortal genocidal mastermind Ra's al Ghul with Marvel's near-immortal genocidal mastermind Apocalypse. And what did they name this new character? Was it something like Genocide? Maybe Armageddon? No, they went with Ra's Apocalypse. Awful names aside though, the Amalgam universe was actually pretty fun while it lasted. Number 4, he stole a man's brain. This was another one of Ra's plans that didn't exactly seem very well thought out. In Batman number 240, the Dark Knight was called by Commissioner Gordon to help solve the case of a scientist who had been murdered and had his brain removed. While on the killer's trail, he bumped into Talia, who conveniently took him right to the culprit. The man she took him to confessed to the crime, but didn't seem to know anything about the brain involved. Talia offered to help by injecting him with a truth serum, but accidentally gave the man the wrong serum and killed him. Batman wasn't fooled since he's the world's greatest detective and all that, and also not a 5-year-old, so he tracked down Ra's and found him with the professor's brain hooked up to a machine that allowed it to talk. It turned out that this whole thing was so that Ra's could interrogate the professor about the work he was doing for the US government. Somehow Ra's thought that this elaborate plan was easier than just kidnapping the man and asking him the questions. Anyway, the story ended with Ra's and Talia fleeing and the brain tricking Batman into flipping a switch that killed it, causing Batman to break his rule against killing for, I don't know what, the 70th time by this point? Number 3, he dated Black Canary. One time in comics, Ra's al Ghul took time out of his busy supervillain plans to have a little bit of midlife crisis. In Birds of Prey number 31, Oracle sent her detective friend Jason Barr to follow her teammate Black Canary. Laurel had recently begun seeing a rich older man, and Barbara was worried that something wasn't quite right. That rich older man turned out to be Ra's al Ghul, a man old enough to be Laurel's great-grandfather, but here the great would be repeated until the end of time. Ra's was masquerading as a count and wanted to seduce Black Canary into marrying him and joining the League of Assassins. Laurel was pretty into him at first, but the relationship took a bit of a turn when she found out about the whole trying to greatly reduce the world's population through murder thing, and she rejected his advances. Like the romantic that he is, Ra's tried to change her mind by kidnapping her and taking her to the Lazarus Pit. He intended to use the pit to destroy Laurel's mind and make her more compliant. Oracle arrived in time to stop Ra's, but in the ensuing battle, Laurel was injured. Barbara put her into the pit to save her, and as a side effect, Black Canary regained her iconic canary cry. Number 2, he tried to seduce Batman as his own daughter. Batman Beyond, also called Batman of the Future, imagined a new Batman taking up the mantle in a cyberpunk future under the guidance of an elderly Bruce Wayne, and it was brilliant. The series saw the return of several classic Batman villains, including Mr. Freeze, the Joker, and in one super creepy episode, Ra's al Ghul. In the episode Out of the Past, a seemingly unaged Talia appears in the Batcave. It was revealed that before he retired, Bruce had one last confrontation with Ra's. In that fight, Talia betrayed her father and sided with Batman, and Ra's was mortally wounded. Talia explained that his injuries were too much even for the Lazarus pit to fix, and so Ra's had finally died. She had returned to offer Bruce a chance to use the pit himself and restore his youth so that they could be together forever. It turned out to be a trick though, because before he died, Ra's had built a device that allowed him to transfer his mind into Talia's body, killing her in the process. He intended to do the same thing to Bruce once his youth was restored, and impersonating his son, take over Wayne Enterprises. Knowing that, it's pretty damn creepy to hear Ra's in Talia's body call Batman her beloved. And number 1, he's a hypocrite. Ra's al Ghul has always been portrayed as one of Batman's most noble villains. Whilst his actions trying to wipe out humanity may indeed be heinous, he does so out of a desire to protect the natural world. In his mind, humanity is an evil that must be destroyed if nature is indeed to survive. Except sometimes he'll just throw all of that out the window and do horrible things to the natural world as well. In some stories, Ra's has been portrayed as a flat-out villain, caring about nothing more than his own mortality and increasing the power of the League of Assassins. One such story was Batman and Robin number 29. At the time, Robin was dead and his corpse had been stolen by Ra's. In this issue, Batman teamed up with Aquaman to track down the demon's head. As they followed Ra's, they found the League of Assassins hunting down and killing an entire pod of sperm whales. Apparently, Ra's had ordered the hunt so that the whales' wombs could be used to grow a brand new army of genetically altered assassins. It was a pretty gruesome scene and a sharp contrast to the environmentally friendly eco-terrorist that Ra's is usually portrayed as. And there we go, my friends. Those were 10 things DC Comics wants you to forget about Ra's al Ghul. I hope that you enjoyed that, and please let me know what you thought about it down in the comment section below. As always, I've been Jules. You can go follow me over on Twitter at RetroJ, or you can swing by Live and Let's Dice, where I do all of my streaming outside of work. As always, I've been Jules. You have been awesome. Never forget that, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.